Hey y'all, I'm Karen Mayer Cunningham, the special education boss. If you've ever felt confused, overwhelmed, or just plain frustrated at the 504 IEP table, you are in the right place. Every week, I'm breaking down the rules, the rights, and the realities of special education so you can walk into meetings informed, empowered, and ready to make real change. And whether you're a parent, a teacher, an advocate, a school-based member, or somebody who's just trying to do right by a student, this podcast gives you straight talk, real answers, and tools that you can use immediately. I'm not here to play politics. I'm not here to play sides. I'm here to train people who sit at the table and teach you how to follow the law, ask the right questions, and protect the rights of students. So go ahead and hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change. We're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.
Welcome to the Special Education Boss.
Caught the school falsifying their service logs. For example, they reported 87 minutes push-and-aid service in math class, but I confirmed with the student and teacher that the push-and-aid was not there. What should I do?
So I had that happen to me, I won't tell you where, one time in Crosby ISD. And the student actually wasn't even at campus that day. So I would give the principal one chance to get that rectified in compensatory time. Otherwise, I would file. That is a denial of services. If the child doesn't have a cognitive disability or is not emotionally disabled, then their input is valuable when you do filings as well.
When a state DOE has a law in regards to IEPs, for example, shortened day, school hours for a child with several disabilities with an active IEP, can districts then take said law and use it at their own discretion? Meaning if they want to implement such law, looser, stricter, or not at all, is that allowed, and what are my rights? I'm in Virginia for reference.
So I would see in your state if you can pull due process hearing cases. So in Texas, all the due process hearing cases, and they're all public record, even if you have to do a FOIA request, is I would ask for the last year's due process decisions. There might be people that have filed related to that, but you can't just have it loosey-goosey. So I would reach out to the DOE. I would send this email. This is my understanding of blank. Can you please tell me where that is in the code? So get that code and then go back to the meeting and read the code verbatim. I bet you somebody gave you a version of the code that's not actually the law. The law is usually really clean and pretty simple.
All right, the next one is a three-part question, Karen. For older students, like 4th or 5th grade, what would I have to do to get a shortened day for my anxious, autistic, and ADHD child when proper supports are being refused and compliance is the only answer to their problems?
So the question is, what do you shorten, right? So it's going to be you're always trying to, address the legal question, right? What is the legal question? If the student needs services, they need the services. I don't know if shortening the day is going to benefit you, but I certainly would look into if they cannot provide services, out of district placement at the expense of the district. Shortening the day stops his requirement and his learning, and it recuses the school from teaching your child.
How can we get a school to provide better supports, for example, OT or sensory, even with an already completed OT evaluation? They firmly believe compliance is the only answer, even in self-contained support classroom, such as autism or ED, where it still looks and acts identical to a gen ed classroom without supports.
So OT is one of those unique related services that the minutes are pretty light, right? So OT in an educational setting really is for two things. It's for sensory needs, fine motor, and fine motor in a school is snaps, zippers, stapling, cutting, those sorts of things, holding a writing instrument. So I would go back to the committee and ask for, would they be open, just kind of like we learned last week from our Black Swan training, would you be opposed to increasing services in this area for this benefit? We don't just ask for more services unless we're wanting a benefit. So if in the meeting you can tie the benefit or the expected outcome to it, I think you might have more gains doing that. If you're within a year of the evaluation, I would ask for an IEE, and it's been more than a year for the evaluation, I would ask for an updated evaluation from the district level.
How can schools provide better training for its staff, including paras?
This is why, we have webinars several times a month. Nobody trains our teachers. We love our teachers. More than 2/3 of the people we train are teachers. I don't know why they don't train teachers. I can only tell you what I believe to be true is that we don't value them the same way. So it's tough.
We have another multi-part question. I'm a former classroom teacher and now an interventionist. I'm struggling sitting at the table, not feeling like we're advocating for what is best for children. Simply checking agree when I don't, it makes me sad. How do I help? Will becoming an advocate be a job parents will seek to hire? And how do we educate parents? And how do I help myself?
So, you can always send parents to our YouTube channel. Anybody can log on to YouTube anytime, anywhere. Special Education Academy has all of this content. We certainly have digital products. We do professional development. We would love for you to be an advocate. It is the most underserved, needed position there is in America. 7.5 million children in America have an IEP. Gazillion children have a 504. Those parents need support, right? You wouldn't expect somebody to go to the hospital and go in by themselves for many days and just leave. You would expect for a family member or somebody there to be supporting them. And really, when parents go into an IEP meeting without support, whether it's your girlfriend, whether it's your aunt, whether it's your neighbor, it's not a good setup. Why? Because you are in crisis. When you're listening to information about your child struggling, that's traumatic and it's stressful, and you should have support.
A has updated the requirements for determining if a student is eligible for the STAR. Since we have many students who do not qualify for the alternate test and are taking the STAR or the EOC at high school, would the SPED teachers need to be highly qualified based on the requirements for a teacher who teaches general education students? For example, a resource special education teacher teaching students in 9th and 10th grade English who are below level but do not qualify for the STAR alt test.
So Texas, if you email TEA, the Texas Education Agency, inquire at spedtex.org, they will send you information on highly qualified teachers. I would assume that every special education teacher in America, including Texas, is highly qualified. I don't agree with the new STAR alt requirements. I think the intent was to clear it up. It just made it more muddy. As it relates to the STAR test or the regular test or the alt test, it has nothing to do with graduation. That's just a bunch of propaganda. If you're in special education, we can opt out of the first test to say that it's not beneficial to take it again.
If your child is in a ANPS, who do I complain to besides the district?
I didn't know what ANPS means. I'm assuming it's some sort of program. So remember, we have 6 dispute resolution options, right? Number 1, a district grievance. Save your time. Save your emotions. Save your inkwell. Number 2, we have a state written complaint. We just did an amazing training on that. You can get that digital product at the Academy. You can do a facilitated IEP meeting, which is really helpful to have everybody simmer down, take it down a notch, and play right. You can file for mediation, which is voluntary. It's a great instrument that my partners and I use all the time. You can file a due process hearing, and then you can file a federal complaint with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. We just did a training on that. I think it's 5.5 hours, and that's available on the Academy as well.
Yeah, so the same person's asking a question. So it says, who do we file complaints against if the school district is private?
So if a school district is private, I would see who is the owner of that. A private school is they might be part of a faith-based community. Somebody owns that school. So I don't know who owns that school, but that's who I would look into.
Okay. And again, another person saying, if my son's in a private school, do they still have to keep records of his goals and progress?
In a private school? A private school is not bound by a federal law for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So if they choose to, that's fantastic, but they are not bound by that because they do not receive funding for special education students in public schools.
Does the teacher of service have to have a teaching license?
Special educators must be licensed. So that's instructional service providers, related service providers, and special educators. They have to be certified. Every state has emergency and other kind of certifications for general ed teachers becoming teachers. There is no exception for special educators, as indicated in the letter from the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, October 4th, 2022. So just Google OSEP, OSEP, October 4th, 2022.
Having so many issues with my 6-year-old school, behaviors, elopement, to start now doing it in first grade. What are schools' responsibilities if a parent is saying that they can't get a student to school because of behavior?
I think it's important for all parties to document that. I've had kiddos that were little tiny. When they become dysregulated, they are uncontrollable. Am I asking a parent to drag them to the car and put them in the car seat? No. I certainly would reach out to the district. I would reach out to the county. There are services that are available, but that happens. I have had 3-year-olds happen, and so have my partners, and I've had 22-year-olds happen. So we certainly don't want to put the child or the parent at risk, but certainly communicate with that educational entity and ask if you can get in-home parent training and or wraparound services from the county or the community.
Okay, perfect. Can a student be in the resource room more than the minutes that they say on the IEP?
So I had a kiddo today that I was helping, and they had 50 minutes a week in the resource room for social skills. But it was also a place where the student feels safe and can calm down. So we have it captured in the present levels and in the accommodations that they can go to their calm down area in the class or outside of the class. For now, that is the resource room. So as long as you've captured it and it's for specificity, then that's perfect. But me just going and hanging out with Miss Danette because I like her, we don't do that.
Okay, perfect. How can I get them to get her on a one-on-one? They just take her out of class and push her through. She says, I'm trying pause for life.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. One-on-one, I'm a proponent of if we have exhausted everything else. And it's very rare that any of us or my partners would find that the school has exhausted everything else, right? So what does it say in LRE? That we educate students to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers with supports and strategies and supplementary aids and auxiliary aids. Sometimes that's not possible. So I think I would ask for somebody from the district level to come in and do a new formal functional behavior assessment. Because sometimes I say there's people that are too close to the kiddo, the parent and the teacher. And, you know, maybe we're just frustrated. We all get frustrated. What we're doing, we know for sure is not working. And then she might need one-on-one, but maybe she doesn't need it all day long, right? Maybe she doesn't need it all 405 instructional minutes. Maybe she needs it during reading. Maybe she needs it during transition. Maybe she needs it at recess. But let's look at that time. But one-on-one is we've exhausted everything else, and that's all we can do.
Okay, what if your son is deaf and has speech issues, but they only want him to sign? What do I do?
So a full initial individualized evaluation, or for you, a new FIE or reevaluation of existing educational data. Go back in and get robust testing. If your testing is less than a year old and you don't agree with it, get an IEE. Let's run through that testing really quickly. Speech to include pragmatic, medical, physical, sociological, cognition to include all 7 Gs, adaptive behavior, formal achievement, a psychological evaluation to include all areas, and then any related or instructional service.
What is needed to become an advocate?
A heartbeat, and liking children, and a high pain tolerance, because it's a tough space. I call special education advocacy the emergency room, right? And we got to make decisions quick. You have to make a decision about what's best for this student in the moment. Meetings are tough. The law is tough. Regulations are tough. But I find that people that are cooked a certain way, it just gets in their bones. If you're the kind of person, you're going to help people anyway. You're like, ma'am, can I help you with that? And you just see kiddos with disabilities. I see it everywhere I go. Then come join us. You don't have to be with us, but let us train you to be the most amazing advocate so you can serve this population. It is the most amazing job. We don't work for anybody. We get to make our own schedules, and you will work all year long, and all you need is the Ethernet cord. We have changed outfits, but we have, all of our partners have clients from coast to coast, and we also have clients internationally, so please come join us. We're only about 20,000 advocates short per state.
Can a parent rescind an agreement to an ETR determination?
A parent can rescind at any time, right? So the parent has, one of your procedural rights is the parent has the right to revoke consent. Boom, revoke, like I unvoked. Right? So you gave consent and you can revoke it.
I'm the teacher of record, and I referred some students for full evaluations. The SPED executive director for our area is excluding me from my students' IEP meetings because she's offended that I asked her to confirm misstatements she made regarding IDEA. What can I do?
Are you the parent or the teacher? Is it the teacher, Danette?
Teacher. Yep.
There's nothing you can do because she's your BOSS. And so the gift of being a boss is sometimes you're bossy. The weakness is you're bossy, and sometimes you're supposed to be a leader. So it's unfortunate that people get their feelings hurt when it's not about my feelings. It's not about her feelings. It's about educating a student.
My 3-year-old son receives speech once a week for articulation. Will he be able to attend school next year in PPCD or similar program, or will he still only be able to receive drop-in services? He will not be 4 until November 2024.
So speech is the entree for ECSC, early childhood special education, but there has to be something else going on with him. So if he doesn't also have severe ADHD, autism, ED, intellectual disability, a functional disability, it's unlikely that he would be accepted to participate. But I could be wrong. Lord knows I've been wrong before.
I currently work in a K-12 setting as a sign language interpreter, aide to the admin. I see so many things that are just mediocre happening in the system. There's no authority that holds any deaf-related topics or person involved accountable in our state. This needs to change, and I'm willing to try, but I have no idea how to begin. Do you have any advice? Or if you need more information, please let me know. I'm beyond passionate about this topic. This is my life. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, we love that. One of our partners has a sensory disability. Sensory disabilities are my jam. Unfortunately, even for VI, right, there just is no governance. We need deaf and hard of hearing itinerant teachers. We need interveners. We need CTVIs. If you want something done, you've got to start with being willing to open your mouth and have a conversation about it. Whether that is starting your own little Facebook Lives, starting your own Facebook group, students who are deaf and hard of hearing, who need special ed, you can start your own group on Facebook. Tell us about it and we'll direct people there. But you have to start having the dialogue. And then it's about who controls the funds. So I would start with the National Association for the Deaf, the National Federation for the Deaf, and see how they disseminate information in a federal level and at the state level.
How can data be tracked for goals if the child is strictly doing home-based schooling per the district? The school refuses to allow the student back at school and will not provide an electronic device for schoolwork. The child was suspended. However, the suspension ended months ago. The IEP states 70% retention on reading comprehension with a once-a-week check-in by the intervention specialist via phone and paper copies of schoolwork being sent to the home once a week. Can the school do this?
No. The school does stuff because nobody complains. And if you haven't heard me, let me just repeat it. We are going to complain. You've got to complain effectively. You've got to make state complaints. You got to make federal complaints. U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights. Your child has rights only when you complain. If a school is going to do the right thing, they would do the right thing. But if you're in a situation, and most schools do, but if you're in a situation and schools aren't doing the right thing, file a state complaint. Even if you file it wrong, they'll tell you what you did wrong, right? So a child has a right for the IEP to be implemented with fidelity. So the last agreed upon IEP, you got to implement the whole thing. So file with your state that the student's IEP is not being implemented with fidelity. The student is not receiving his special education related services.
We live in Washington State, and my son's teacher and I do not get along. I tried to get her excused from the meeting and shared my opinion with our principal. I told her I did not want her at the IEP meeting. She still showed up. Is there a law that gives her the right to show up even against our wishes?
Yeah, so anybody can show up, right? Even Karen gets to show up. So just like they can't say, Alicia can't bring Karen or Danette can't bring Charlene, you can certainly reach out to leadership and say, when I'm in a meeting with Karen, we really struggle to be able to communicate successfully. I'm not saying I don't like her, because who doesn't like me, right? Could somebody at her equal level partner with her and attend the next meeting, right? So I've never had that not be done. Either way, it doesn't matter. If we can't communicate successfully in a meeting, then we can't focus on the child's needs. Even today I had that go on. Hold your questions to the end. I'm not doing that. This is a conversation. I sit in business meetings all the time. I sit in government appointments and collegiate appointments. Nobody goes, Charlie, It's a conversation. People have a conversation. You said something, I have a question. It's called dialogue. Can you imagine if you were in your classroom and you went, everybody wait till the end of the class? Well, that's not participation. So make sure that you're not being denied your procedural right to participate in a way that's appropriate for all members.
Oh, can schools put a time on IEP meeting?
Yeah, schools can put a time on an IEP meeting. So when the meeting starts and they say you have 17 seconds, I will say that is not a problem. Let me look at a new time to reschedule, right? One of the things I was training my partners on today, we're not pressured by time. If your child needed a life-saving surgery and they said, we've only got 6 minutes right now, is that okay? Well, no, let's wait till the next guy, right? You want to make sure that you have enough time to make decisions for that student. And if everybody has to leave, well, then let's leave and let's look at a time that's appropriate. I always schedule an hour and a half for my meetings, 2 hours if it's an initial, which is plenty for me, but I've been doing this a long time. But don't be rushed.
All right. Who decides if a student gets an AAC device and doesn't require an evaluation process?
Nobody. Ain't nobody doing that. So you ask for an assistive technology evaluation in communication, and you want to make sure that they use the SET framework. And so we have a training on AT in the academy that you guys can watch. The student has a need. He has a profound speech impairment. We want an evaluation for a VOCD. So that really is the next level jumpstart.
And you can find all of that information at our website.
Oh.
Okay. Can a child qualify for an IEP if they're on grade level academically, but also have autism and need counseling?
A child qualifies for an IEP because they need instruction that's more than the general ed teacher solely can provide.
Bada bing, bada boom, bada bing. Can school districts make changes to their students' plans without parent involvement?
Yes. Yes, listen to me. For everybody that says, oh my gosh, the 504 is amazing. So I had a little girl that was seven, and 4 adults at the school called her down to the office for a 504 meeting. They didn't notify the parent before, during, or after, and they're not required to. Doesn't that sound like a great plan for your child with a disability? Said no one.
Can a student with anxiety, ADHD, bipolar diagnosis be eligible for ED and ASD? School psych says no.
School psych is not accurate. Depending on what state you're in, depending on what order they're in, they could qualify for both, absolutely.
The 60-day timeline, that is calendar days, correct?
School. So for evaluations, you're looking at school days. So depending on what state you're in, it's 30, 45, or 60.
We have a student, they're in 3rd grade now, and they've been retained. I've watched this student as they've gone through schooling, and this child is being left behind. Totally left behind. They have no friends. They behave as if they're in kindergarten. They can't read, can't write. They've been receiving RTI forever and finally got tested. I don't think anyone can raise a fuss, and this isn't the type of situation where I can whisper in the parents' ears. After testing, they were considered too low to qualify, no strength, so unable to be receptive to receiving help. This child is just going to keep getting pushed along. I looked through every law, every single thing I can find. Our diagnostician is way more knowledgeable in law than I am, so it has to be legal. But how is this right?
No, it doesn't, my love. Your diagnostician, I don't know what she's good in. I haven't found any diagnosticians that haven't come to our training that knew about the federal law. Let's talk about the federal law, shall we? 300.111D. 300.111D says, it's the end of child find. It says that a student doesn't even have to be listed by an eligibility as long as we know as a committee they're in need of special education and related services. To say that a child is too low to learn, well then I guess you should unenroll them from school. Like, do that tomorrow. Just tell the parents to pick them up. They're too low to learn. I can't think of anything more discriminatory or offensive than that.
If you have more than one child who's been denied services from the district, failing to implement an IEP, and after trying to work with the district, I feel the need to file a report. Maybe this should be a complaint though. Should I include both in one report to the DOE or OCR, or two separate reports?
Each child is its own investigation. So I just got a systemic case open in Washington County, Florida. I had to file individually on each student. So whether they're your children or you advocate for a family of children, each child goes in individually, because you're going to have to attach their IEP, their IEP progress reports, their FIE, their notes and emails, or their 504. So each child is separate. Now that entity, that state education agency or the Office of Civil Rights, might put them together in their response, but they must be filed separately.
Karen, this next question is from my lovely state of Georgia. I just wanted to see your thoughts. I watched my district move children out of a self-contained class and into gen ed with the underlying factor that we have over the allotted 1% we have for GAA testing. That's our alternate testing. And they are not receiving our funding. One child is adaptive low and will never be able to take care of himself. He's on a feeding tube and in diapers, and cognitively on one test he made an 89, but cannot complete the work in class. Another student cognitively scored in the lower extreme, and they also moved him to gen ed. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a violation of the student's LRE. So that is a state complaint. Listen to me. Your state complaints, your state offices are good if you file correctly. Do it exactly as I walk you through it. But that's a denial of LRE. So that wouldn't be a federal complaint. Federal complaints have great specificity. They're tied to Title II, ADA, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, 504, or a certain specificity under IDEA for implementation or failure to implement, or a denial of FAPE for your IEP. But that right there is a state complaint all day long.
What about a school psychologist who didn't qualify a student because with a low average IQ of 81 is functioning as expected? This child scored in the 5th percentile in all areas but didn't qualify for services. I'm very upset, as she needs more help and support than I can give as a gen ed teacher. Is this happening in other places?
Say it with me. Everywhere. Everywhere. So you've got to get the parent to ask for an IEE. A student that is 81, that's the 11th percentile, is going to need support above what the most amazing general ed teachers can provide. So we've got to get that information to the parent that they are entitled to an IEE if they disagree with the evaluation findings.
Can a student have a BIP that has an exceptionality of SLD?
Anybody can have, I probably need a BIP. Yeah, you can have any exceptionality, any eligibility, and also need a BIP.
Where do I sign up? When's your next training? Can I get all the information, please?
The next training's right now. We don't have a 2-day scheduled, although I am going to get with the great Alicia and schedule one for the end of the school year. I have 3 due process hearings coming up between now and the end of the school year. But the weekend that we all get out of school, I'll probably have a 2-day, either that first or second weekend. You can take it on demand right now. We are going to open up a group mastermind for all of you amazing mastermind we're starting. It'll be twice a week, and you'll be done in a few weeks. So you definitely want the mastermind if you're ready to pivot. I can tell you the skills that I teach you, you should be able to be full-time in special education as an advocate within 100 days, 120 days. It just is, it's so doable. I'm not telling you to leave your job at the school. I'm just sharing opportunities.
Yeah.
Sharing.
We're just, we're here. We're sharing our information with you. We're telling you.
Can I just answer a question? So somebody said, where do you... Oh, no. Sorry. Somebody said, where do you get an advocate job? So we teach you that in the 2-day, and we really teach you that in the mastermind. But, none of us run ads. We simply we finish our training. We put an ad up on Facebook and say, hey, I'm Karen Mayer Cunningham. I'm a special education advocate. I help families who have children that struggle in school. Let me know if you need anyone that needs help.
Can a teacher legally become an advocate?
A teacher can legally become whatever she wants to become. I wouldn't put a big sticker on the side of her door, but I wouldn't imagine that you'd be an advocate and employed at the school district at the same time. We had that happen, and somebody said, you can go on now.
Can a student have a BIP without a 504 or IEP in place?
Yeah, anybody at school could have a behavior plan if that's what makes a kiddo successful. Certainly a principal can put that in place.
I have lots of concerns about our SPED students. First off, our SPED kiddos are not supposed to be out of placement for more than 10 days, but our AP has created a code for attendance called OCI, on-campus inclusion, to bypass this rule. Is this breaking rules? Also, our higher admin doesn't want to keep paras, so our kids are not getting their accommodations. How do I address this?
Well, you sign up for the training at specialeducationacademy.com. And how you address this is if you work there, I would say to the principal, it seems like you're comfortable with me violating my certification. If you're participating in that. Both of those are violations. If you can't find, reach out to one of our partners. We file for people all the time. I can file for people whether that's my client or not, as long as I have the consent when I have been told that there's a violation. So that definitely needs to be filed on.
I have a question about my son's IEP. During his annual review, he was recommended for co-taught physics for his junior year. They just told me that they're not offering co-taught physics next year, and he'll have to pick a different science class, which is less rigorous, or take physics non-co-taught. Is that legal?
Yes. There's no requirement for anybody to ever provide co-taught, which is fantastic if you can get it. And usually the only 2 times it is provided, not always, but almost usually, is going to be in the English language arts and or math.
I've been told that there are 3 people you can hire that specialize in special education and can help you navigate things like ARD meetings, etc., and can help you understand what the school is asking and what you can and cannot ask for and what the school can and cannot do. Is this true? If so, how can I find these people? I'm located in Texas, if that helps. I'm having a really hard time getting accommodations. I feel in my son's list of doctors and medical professionals feels he needs it. I keep getting told we don't offer that. We don't have the staff for that, blah, blah, blah. And I just need someone to help me get my son what he needs in school. Any help is appreciated.
Yeah, so I don't know who those 3 people are, but you can email us and we will get you one of our partners to assist you. You need to have support when you go into an IEP meeting if that's something you can invest in. So just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com and we will get you one of our partners assigned to you immediately.
What if you have a student who would benefit from an out-of-district placement? What do you do?
So you have to call a meeting and you have to present the evidence that the school district, county, or city has in no way the ability to provide his educational needs. That's what you first have to overcome. And then you have to talk about out-of-district placements, more than one, not just one.
When you're referring to a small group accommodation, what is considered small group? Is there a number?
No, there's not. Less than the Super Bowl. We would assume that people understand what a small group is, but I've seen small groups go up to 12.
All right. So, is there a limit on self-contained classrooms for special education kids?
Unfortunately, no.
There was not a limit in my classroom neither. Sorry.
No, I mean, all children are equal. All children are equal. Every child has the right in America to access general education. What that looks like is based on the student's unique circumstances. Remember, in the LRE, we have one major question. Is the student's behavior impeding his learning or learning of others? And we have to make sure that we're answering that question correctly.
Okay, who regulates the practice for advocates? How do you find one that's reputable?
So, nobody regulates us any more than anybody regulates principals. Or, I don't know if anybody's being regulated by anybody. So, I know that the people that I train and our partners are exemplary. We have a very high level of ongoing training that happens for our partners monthly. So, I can tell you that anybody that is one of our partners will take care of you just as if I was taking care of you. Certainly, you can reach out to people in your community. But if you remember, an advocate is a very personal fit. Somebody that would want to work with me may not want to work with Alicia. Somebody that would be a good fit for Alicia wouldn't be a good fit for Danette. So certainly it's a fit because it's such a close relationship. And you're somebody's advocate for usually a decade. So certainly find somebody that understands what you want and has the ability to take parent passion, educator wisdom, and connect the two with the umbrella of law in an IEP meeting.
Perfect. A child is on an IEP. Do you think a behavior plan is a good idea just for refusal to do work in the general education classroom?
Depending on how often it happens, absolutely. So I had a kiddo with an IEP today. His was non-compliance, elopement, and physical aggression. So any behavior that the teacher cannot handle themselves or the special education teacher that requires a specific plan to mitigate that behavior, then yeah.
Would IEP accommodations be used on vocab rehab for testing?
So anytime a student takes a test at school, there's accommodations that sit inside of supplements, they sit inside of IEP goals, they sit inside of daily accommodations, testing accommodations, whether it's the district or state level. So if it falls under one of them, then absolutely that's applicable.
All right, my 7-year-old is getting a service dog and I have to be the handler. Is this allowed?
Handler? You mean like at school? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're, like, I guess she has to be the handler for the dog.
I don't know about that specifically. No, ma'am.
Can they say your child can't come to school because of lack of staff?
No, not in America.
That's right, not in America. Is a reeval required for a student going from high school to a district transition program?
A reevaluation is needed every 3 years. It's not based upon moving programs.
My daughter's school has no qualified or licensed staff to help help autism and ADHD. Is that legal? How can they help?
So you don't need staff required to work on specific disabilities, but you need staff to implement special education and related services.
Wow, Bonnie said she got told today that in Texas, a small group is 30 and below.
Oh, Bonnie. Bonnie. Well, and that's a small football team in Texas. That's a little tiny football team.
Do schools have to provide a para in preschool if it's in their IEP?
In preschool, you're not going to just have one teacher with a bunch of little tiny kiddos. I assume there's a para. Otherwise, that teacher would be like running for the hills and not coming back.
Right? Can a 3-year-old student attend full time? How do you go about getting an aide to sit in school with my daughter to help with feeding and restrooming?
So you would get a PCS, a personal care supplement, and then there would be somebody to implement those needs.
Can recess be part of math minutes?
I don't know. It depends on what you're counting on the playground.
Rising kindergarten, autism level 2, elopes, no fence on the playground. I'm terrified. Any words of advice?
I understand. There's no legal requirement in most cities, counties, or state for the playground to have 4 sides to enclose them.
Can my son's one-to-one be pulled to work with higher needs student? No, I'm sorry.
No. There. No.
Can I ask for more Can I ask for more SAI time? Increase is 30 minutes a week and more than half of his goal is not met.
I'm going to assume that's for speech and language impairment. You can ask for more time that's appropriate. You have to remember, in a public school, we don't just get, it's not the same thing as a medical model or a therapeutic model. It is a model that's for public education, that's appropriate. Remember, every time they have a related or instructional service, they're missing something else. So you have to quantify it based upon the student's unique circumstances.
What can I do if my students aren't getting their speech time and the principal doesn't care?
Well, then you've got to secretly let somebody know who's willing to file.
I did that as a teacher. It's tough. Okay. Now everybody's asking about where they get that Zoom link for the Pearland due process coming up.
So we have a due process for Pearland ISD. The great Alicia is going to post it tonight or tomorrow.
All right, so the question was, how do they get the link for the Pearland due process hearing? So I'm going to post, everybody listen closely, on the Special Education Boss's Facebook page. So if you're not following her on Facebook, go do that, plug it in. Anyways, Special Education Boss. On her page, 7:45 in the morning, I'm going to make the post that has the link to join the Zoom and all of the information. Here's how due process hearings work. The hearing officer is going to let you in. You need your full name, your government name on your Zoom, and your camera and mic has to remain off. If you don't follow those rules, you're going to get kicked out. Plain and simple. So the hearing officer is only going to let you in right before it starts and on natural breaks and after lunch. If you're sitting in the waiting room, it's because the hearing has already started and he's not letting you in until they take a break. He or she, whoever it is. So just know that that's how the due process works. Every day I will post the link 7:45 in the morning.
Central
Education Boss's Facebook page.
So Special Education Boss Facebook page, 7:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. The hearing starts at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. What you need to do is log on about 8:45 Central Standard Time and then just stay logged on. If they take breaks, just stay logged on, then you won't be kicked out. That's the best way to get in. The components of that due process hearing is a student who is in 6th grade going to 7th grade who reads about 40 words correct per minute. We finally got him in special education. He didn't make gains in special education, so they put him back in gen ed. What?
What's happening in 28 minutes?
So Special Education Academy, we are doing a series of important OSEP letters that you need to change outcomes in 504 IEP meetings. Be there, be square. If you want to come and join us for free, you can go to Special Education Academy, go to the training tab, put in your financial information. There'll be a section that says coupon code, and you would put in TikTok Live in all caps. And then join us for 15 days. If you want to leave, that's fine. If you want to stay and be trained every month for $47, hours and hours on the federal law, the application, and the spirit of the law, stay. We have hundreds of hours of training from the last 3 years that are archived in series, so we would love to see you there. And you can get all of your questions answered there because we answer the questions from our Academy members. Somebody did say, I want to answer a question. Somebody asked, can an RBT or a para or a teacher be called as a witness for a due process hearing? Yeah, and they are. So be certain that that's who we call. We call the people that actually teach the student. So if you have questions, you need assistance, you need something filed, you need a records review, you need representation, email us at advocate@Special Education Academy. This is a great time, even if you haven't been our clients, if you want somebody to file because the year has come to an end and your students, remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training. Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change, we're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.